Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Snre Natural Resources and Energy, and it is January 14th. And we are joined today by some members of staff, and so we're excited to have you all introduce yourselves to us, as we know we're going to be talking to you all probably a fair bit this session. So we're going to start Secretary, and then we're just going to go right down the list as it appears on the agenda. And then after we do that, if we have any time left over, well, there's some other business that we need to discuss as a committee. But yeah, I'm gonna, because I know you've got a place you've got to be. So I'm just gonna turn it over to the secretary and let you take it away. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come in this morning. For the record, I'm Julie Moore. I'm the Secretary of Natural Resources. Charles Martin, our Deputy Secretary, sends his regrets. He seems to have come down with the flu and encouraged him to stay home and get better. But I am joined this morning by our three department commissioners, Jason Batchelder from the Department of Environmental Conservation, Danielle Fitzko from the Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation, and then our interim commissioner, Andrea Shortsleeve from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we'll let each of them talk to you a little bit about the specific mission of their department. But thought that I could do a little bit of stage setting just around the overall work of the Agency of Natural Resources. So ANR has about 650 full-time employees right now. That's about a 10% increase than prior to COVID. And a lot of that reflects the really significant amounts of federal funding that ANR has been given the opportunity to administer. And I can talk a little bit more about that. Also, something that's changed very dramatically for ANR over the last several years is our budget. The FY26 budget that the governor will present later this month will show an ANR budget in excess of $330 million. That is about 170% increase from when I started in this job in FY18 when our budget was 125 million. And it's in fact double where it was in FY21. And that really is a reflection of these historic levels of federal funding that the agency is administering. This includes nearly $200 million in ARPA initiatives, where we've been helping support investments in things like failed wells and septic systems at low-income Vermont homes, making improvements to infrastructure in manufactured housing communities, dramatically accelerating our work to eliminate combined sewer overflows, work around stormwater management, including support of the 3-acre stormwater program and other critical investments in water infrastructure. On top of that, there's been almost $450 million that's become available to the agency through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is sometimes referred to as IIJA. And that again is really targeted on water infrastructure investments, including eliminating lead service lines, addressing PFAS and other emerging contaminants of concern that present real public health challenges, as well as some pretty critical reinvestment in refurbishing our water infrastructure. And then we have also seen a smaller, which feels modest at this point, but recognizing $20 million is still a lot of money, roughly under the Inflation Reduction Act, that has come to support our climate pollution reduction programming, as well as some significant pieces of conservation under Forest Legacy, which is work that's being led by the Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation. So it's really an exciting and often also overwhelming time to be in the agency. This is starting my 9th year in this position, so I've been here throughout the Scott administration. For those of you I haven't had a chance to work with before, I'm a civil engineer by training, and I've worked as both a consulting engineer as well as having done a previous stint in state government. At that time, I led what is now called the Clean Water Initiative Program, but was the Clean Water Program, so addressing phosphorus pollution in Lake Champlain. And I always say that clean water is my heart work, even though I spend a lot of my time right now on climate and climate action. So just wanted to touch base briefly on a significant number of the major initiatives that are in progress at ANR. We really do have our plates full. Part of that is in response and recovery to the 7 federally declared disasters that Vermont has experienced over the last 18 months. We have both folks that are out providing direct technical assistance to municipalities and impacted homeowners, most often through our team of river engineers, but also took damage to our own facilities, including fishing access areas and state parks that we've been working to restore. ANR also has a leading role in some of our dam safety program in both managing a small number of really significant state-owned dams, including Waterbury Reservoir and the East Barry and Wrightsville flood control facilities. In total, we own 80 dams across the 3 departments, but then also provide technical assistance to dam owners statewide. Climate action is obviously front and center, knowing this committee is going to get a briefing on the clean heat standard work being done by the Public Utilities Commission later this week. We are also in the throes of supporting the Climate Council, who is revising Vermont's climate action plan, which is due July 1st of this year. We are working in collaboration with the Treasurer's Office on a resilience implementation strategy that will also hopefully come to fruition July 1st of this year, but that is really a companion document to the climate action plan focused specifically on resilience work. And then have a feasibility report due to this body tomorrow regarding the Climate Superfund Act and what we believe it will take to fully implement that work as scoped. I would also just touch briefly on environmental justice. This body did some really significant work to promote environmental justice policies about 3 years ago, and we are very much in the throes of implementing those efforts. It is incredibly important work, relies on significant public engagement, and so it's also work that takes time, and we are moving through that process. Another report that will come into this body tomorrow is related to our Clean Water Fund and the work being done that'll show over the last 8 years, we've invested nearly $600 million in clean water work statewide, and are able to show some really kind of exciting results and trends, and look forward to the opportunity to talk with this committee more about that. Couple of pieces of work around emerging contaminants, PFAS and PCBs in schools that I suspect Commissioner Batchelder may touch on briefly, where his team is deeply engaged in that important public health work. Act 59, which is the 30 by 30 and 50 by 50 conservation bill. An inventory was submitted to the General Assembly this fall, and we are shifting along in partnership with the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board into the development of the statewide conservation plan sort of as we speak, and welcome the opportunity to talk more about that, but that's work really being led by a team staffed in FPR, but also with deep support from Fish and Wildlife. And then just, sort of continuing to fulfill our standing responsibilities related to regulatory compliance, law enforcement with our warden force, planning, public lands infrastructure, and public land stewardship. And so it is a really broad, complex, and important body of work. And look forward to working with all of you throughout the session, and just know that we're happy to make the experts on our staff available to you as you look to take up different topics to provide background and context, and share the work that we're doing in many of the spaces I expect you will take up as you move forward.
Thank you. Any questions for Secretary Moore? Great. Thank you so much. Super. All right. So next, going down the list, we'll have Commissioner Schwartz.
Oh, okay.
And then Commissioner Batchelder, and then
Much shorter than Julie, but my name's Andrea Shortsley. I've been a wildlife biologist with the department for 8 years and interim commissioner for about a month. So happy to be here. We have about 130 full-time employees at Fish and Wildlife. About 40 of them are in the warden service. We do a ton of really great conservation work that I'm very proud about. And I know that tracking and hunting get a lot of airtime here and then in the media, but it's only a fraction of the work that we do. We are regional leaders in our land and habitat conservation. We have a fantastic friend and endangered species program. And we provide public access and recreation opportunities and educational workshops through our communities throughout the state. I also want to highlight the work of Vermont Conservation Design, which was led by our department, and it is the scientific background and guidance that is behind a lot of the work that you all will be doing this season. And so I just want to highlight that all of our staff is very, very enthusiastic and looking forward to coming in and talking to you as I am as well. So, forward to the field.
Any questions for the commissioner? Okay. All right, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, same. All right, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Beach Committee, Madam Chair, thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Jason Batchelder and I'm the newest DEC Commissioner. I've been in the role for about 15 months now and came from the agency. So I came out of retirement, but I came from the agency where I was chief warden for 8 or so years. I wore the deputy badge as well, Senator, so appreciate your service there. I was with the Warden Service for 20 years and came out of retirement at the request of Julie to try my hand here, and I've had an extraordinary roller coaster ride over the last 15 months. A very dynamic session last year with Act 121, with which you'll see a follow-up report tomorrow. What I'd like to do is basically just go down the list of my divisions and just give you a brief overview of what they do, and perhaps some of them that you will come across in this session. And happy to get anyone on your calendar that you wish it. I have a new deputy commissioner, Neil Cameron, who some of you may have met. He is our Water Investment Division Director / Deputy Commissioner right now, but he's wearing a third hat today for me at a different meeting, so he couldn't join us. But you'll certainly see him here. He's a wealth of knowledge with over 30 years of experience with the department. I lean on him heavily even before his new role as Deputy Commissioner. But I'll start with our Administration and Innovation Division. They're essentially our administrative adhesive that cross-cuts all of our other departments and supports us financially, support us budgetarily. They support us with all of our systems. If we need something signed, dotted, thought through within the department, that is our as our aid division, what we call it. Kim McKee is our lead. She's our director there. Likely won't see Kim, but could if you wish. Air quality and climate division is run by Heidi Hales, and think emissions and smog and the landfill particulate matter that arises out of that place. That's what they're in charge of. They do a lot of permitting and compliance within the realm of air quality. They are currently working on a new air quality monitoring station in Chittenden County right now. They had one, it's gone, but we monitor air quality around the state, and we do, as you might imagine, have probably the cleanest air in the country outside of Alaska. We had one bad day last year. I forget, Secretary, can you tell me the name of those bad days when we get them? I never. We have a bad air quality day and a name for it, and it's a big deal. We had one last year because of the Canadian wildfires. But anyway, we have extraordinary clean air. Our drinking water groundwater protection division is next, and that's run by Director Brian Cameron. As the Secretary mentioned, largely his day is dealt with dealing with PFAS and other emerging contaminants that are exposed to drinking water, surface water, migrates to our groundwater. He does the lion's share of monitoring that water, trying to get people to flush the right things down into their septic so we don't have these contaminants going into our drinking water out into our lakes and rivers. But he does a lot of permitting for septics. He does a lot of permitting for public drinking water supplies as well. And certainly you'll get to meet him. Been around a long time, has a wealth of knowledge. Our environmental compliance division, it has a new director, her name is Margie Clark. The outgoing director was Adam Miller, and he came from Fish and Wildlife. But he moved on and Margie took his place. Within environmental compliance lives our environmental assistance and enforcement. So we're on the left hand, we're trying to get people in compliance to enforcement, but we're also helping them understand the very complex web that we have tangled. Forgive me for taking that blame. We've tangled quite a web with our environmental legal system, and it's tough for an average Vermonter, it's tough for any Vermonter to navigate. So we have an office that does that. In addition to our Healthy Homes program through ARPA, we do help directly fund people with failed wastewater systems through that division and drinking water systems as well. Undoubtedly, some of you may have heard of our Healthy Homes program. I wish I could speak more intelligently about it. I would love to get Margie in here and have some of her staff tell you about Healthy Homes. It's an extraordinary program. Geology is a division that lives within DEC. It's actually associated with the Secretary's office, but we have a state geologist lives within our department, and he's been in high clover lately dealing with landslides. He's in his glory of helping folks manage buyouts, all the fallout from storms, flooding. Normally, a geologist conducts research and mapping, but he's been called upon to be a first responder in these arenas, going out and watching land migrate away from land, downslope, away from people's houses, helping people get out of danger, which has been pretty extraordinary. Ben DeYoung is his name, PhD. Waste management and prevention is Matt Chapman, which many of you may know. Matt's worn a lot of hats, but he's currently the director, been there for quite a while now. They regulate solid and hazardous waste management. He also deals with PCBs in schools. God bless him. He is taking an extraordinary load there, and absolutely necessary work, which I'm fingers crossed and will be funded through the administration for through to its completion. It's a controversial bit of work, understanding it disrupts classrooms, but we have been living with these contaminants, these known carcinogens since the 60s, and we feel deeply that it's time to get them out of kids' lungs. Watershed Management Division is our biggest division, right around 100 people, and that's run by Director Pete LaFlamme. I think he's already on your docket to come in and say hi one of these days. Extraordinary team Pete has. He's ultimately capable. They have a huge charge with essentially, I wrote them down here, 800 lakes and ponds, 23,000 miles of rivers and streams, and 300,000 acres of wetlands. So if you've ever tried to affect change on a wetland, likely you've met some of Pete's folks. I think I don't get through a day where I don't have someone who wants to dig a hole in Vermont and it's in a wetland, and so we have to get through. That's Pete's team. He touches a lot of our divisions, that does an extraordinary job doing it. He's been around 37, almost 38 years in this, and almost 20 of it in this role. So he's an extraordinary guy. And lastly, our water investment division. I was hoping Neil would be here to tell you about his division. It's the secretary mentioned all the money we spend. Neil spends it through investing in water infrastructure, wastewater systems, drinking water systems. If a municipality needs a water treatment facility, Director Cameron helps them spend out. That's about all I got. Thank you for having us, and sorry if I went a little long there, but I'm happy to come back, happy to have our folks come in. I know they'd love to meet you all. And congratulations on your elections and your appointments, and thank you all for having us. Happy to take any questions. But that's great too.
All right, fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna round out the group.
All right.
For the record, I'm Danielle Fitzko. I'm the Commissioner of Forest Parks and Recreation. I've been with FBR for over 20 years. For most of it, I was an urban and community forestry program manager, so I worked in the downtowns, greening the gray. And then I was director of forest for a few years, and I've been now commissioner about 2 years. FPR is kind of goes along with our name. We are forests, we're parks, and we're recreation. Sometimes we say we're forest, parks, and fun. Our forestry division is our biggest division. We have about 65 employees in forestry. You probably don't know all they do because we're in the woods. But it's a robust division of about 7 different program areas. I'll give you just a highlight of those areas. Our first that we always sort of kick off with is forest health, because everything we do in the forestry division really leads with healthy forests first. They even get up in a plane every year, fly over and try and identify any sort of problems that they're seeing, and certainly do long-term monitoring of the health of our forests, and we're doing really good, which is great. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have threats that we're watching out for. There's introduced invasive species that we're always looking out for, but we've got a great team of partners that are looking at our forests. We have a private lands program, working with landowners, all landowners, but primarily they work in the use value appraisal program with the forest land category. Over 16,000 parcels are enrolled, and over 2 million out of 4.4 million acres of forest land are in that program. Just recently, we've created, this body created the new reserve forest land subcategory, and we just launched that recently, and that's been an important new body of work for that team. We also have our state lands team. A&R manages over 370,000 acres of state lands, just all across the state. And our team in forestry oversees state forests and also all the planning and management across all A&R lands. And that is a big body of work, thinking about meeting all the diverse users and values of Vermonters. Our public lands are incredible. Let's see, urban and community forests, as I mentioned, that's where I sort of my roots, and sort of already we met and we helped plant some trees and back in the day together.
Yes, we did.
And it's all about really maximizing the benefits of trees in our downtown areas. Pretty passionate about that one. Wildland fire, now it's becoming more and more important. Certainly we had a pretty intense fall. We had 9 fires that we responded to help local communities. Some of them were pretty intense. We've been increasing our capacity in this program. We used to just have 2 staff that part-time supported wildland fires, and we now have 3 full-time staff, and we're really looking at planning further on our needs here to be prevention oriented and being able to respond really well. We monitor for fire weather danger. We have worked really well with fire wardens across the state and local communities. But it was straining this past year. We actually had a call in resources from New Hampshire to help us out, and the Green Mountain National Forest helped us out as well. And our last one in forestry is Forest Economy Program, and that works with businesses across the state, thinking about foresters, loggers, sawmills, secondary manufacturers. Forest economy in Vermont is about $1.4 billion a year and employs about over 10,000 individuals. So it really is an important sector for Vermont's economy. So that's team forestry. Our next division is state parks. I hope you all have been to Vermont State Park. We have 55 developed state parks all across the state, very rural parts of our state, really helping those local economies and providing accessible, easy access recreational opportunities, whether it's camping or day use areas, bringing in over $100 million a year in local economy. They're conserved pieces of property. We do a lot of education and outreach. And we're really trying to make them more accessible with ADA accessibility, language access for state parks. And we have a great partnership with a nonprofit called Vermont Parks Forever that is raising money to those that maybe can't afford to go to state parks, access to Vermont state parks. But it is, people don't think about it, but we got the state parks are the third biggest like infrastructure asset holder of the state government behind like AOT and BGS. We have $280 million in assets. Think about all the lean-tos and talk a lot about toilets and all even the underground piping for our wastewater systems and potable water. On a busy weekends, we're bigger than Burlington, but all across the state. So that's state park. And our last division is lands administration and recreation, and they have a few different buckets. They oversee sort of the land administration for all A&R land. So they support sort of like the land records and long range management planning for not only FPR, but for Fish and Wildlife and DEC for our public lands. They also have a conservation arm, so they do a lot of land conservation. And actually, I just met with some of them yesterday. And in 2025, we're looking at potentially 14 new conservation projects coming forward, whether they'll be properties that the state has had an interest in owning, or will be a conservation easement that will oversee sort of that management of that private landowner long term. And then they also have recreation, which is, we know is increasing in popularity in the state. It's diversified. We just got some new numbers out, and Vermont is number 2 in the GDP for outdoor recreation, just behind Hawaii at 4.2% of the state. So it's $2.1 billion a year it's bringing in. And we administer a lot of recreation grants and support the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative. We just put out $6 million in grants this past year. And we are really starting to see the impact of those grants, and it's really been a phenomenal engine, economic driver for communities. And then we have our business offices. You don't really see them, but they are the circulatory system. You can't imagine how many invoices we process for state parks to buy like ice and toilet paper. Like 11,000 transactions a year just for state parks. And then we get a lot of grants that we bring in, and then we go out. So we really need a robust business office, and we built them up over the past couple of years. They have 135 staff year round, and then we really expand in the summertime, about 450 seasonal staff we bring on primarily to run the state park system. They come from all over the country. We always look at state parks as like, come try Vermont, right? And a lot of times they stay. And so for us, it's difficult too, because, you know, they come, they need housing. So we really try and provide park housing where we can. And in the past couple of years, we've really worked hard on increasing our salary to those individuals, because it was pretty difficult before. So that's the FPR team. We're happy to bring anybody in to talk to you. And I'm happy to be available for whatever you need.
Super, thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. It's really nice to see you,
You too.
Commissioner. So just to tell the story, Commissioner Fitzko helped me and my then 3rd grade daughter's class plant 25 trees at their elementary school. And then they were named the tree steward. They won the tree steward award.
Yes.
And they got to come to the State House, and I think this was about 15-ish years ago.
Mhm.
And they got to receive the award from then Governor Douglas. And it was an amazing day with all these 3rd graders. It was the first time I was ever in the building. And I saw all of the portraits that I'm trying to diversify. But you were amazing. And some of the photos that we took are still actually on the website from the little kids planting the trees. And it was a great experience. So my first like direct interaction with state government was with you. And it's really had a big impact on me and like my daughter. So thank you for that. But I also have a question, which is about, you mentioned the forest fires and the division that's dealing with that, because I have a constituent who's asked me about this a few times. And I'm curious if the forest fires that are happening in Vermont are happening because of human sort of error, or if it's just heating of the ground and the air, or why are they happening?
So we had 85 fires this year that we know of, wildland fires in Vermont. One of them is natural cause, and so it's mostly human cause, and that's just thinking about campfires, people not putting out their wood ashes correctly. Maybe a cigarette butt, I mean, so it's typically human cause. And that's always really been the case.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it was drought driven, and
Yeah.
so it's more vulnerable because we were such a high drought, particularly in the south this year. Everyone felt like because we had the floods mostly in the north that we weren't, but we really were in a drought situation in the south. And there's really two fire seasons in Vermont each year, the spring and the fall. And that's because you don't have leaf on,
Yeah,
and so it's the humidity is not there underneath the canopy.
yeah,
Typically, the fall fire season is a little bit more damaging for infrastructure, just the nature of the way fire behavior is. But what we do is we forecast fire danger every year, every day, we watch and sort of monitor and put out an alert across to all the fire departments, to all fire wardens. So we can then, they can make decisions on whether or not we issue open burning permits, one of the causes. So this year, we actually put a burn ban out in this fall for almost 2 weeks, really, to just really not encourage any sort of open burning.
right.
But we were actually pretty lucky this year. Some of our neighboring states like Massachusetts and Connecticut had a lot more intense fire and that could have impacted infrastructure. But we are part of what we call the Northeast Compact. So we have an agreement with the New England states and Quebec, and so when you need resources, we can pull in. So it's like a shared pool. So we'll go out and help them, within the compact, and we even go out to Western fires. And when we do that, it helps bring the expertise back here to Vermont. So we call them probably like 12 people in the state that kind of go out and do that work. We're looking at enhancing that, so we can have more people trained up to bring back when we need it and to support other states and countries.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. And if there's anything that you think we need to do here in this room to help, be the Smoky Bears, let us know, because this is a concern I've heard, as I said, a bunch of times. One particular constituent is very adamant about it. He keeps asking me, so I was like, I will find out.
Well, I have a one pager that we can
I love
send
that.
out, and we are actually presenting 2 places on Fridays. If you want our wildland fire team to come in, we'll be ready.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Super, well, thank you so much.
Nice to see everybody.
So that, yes, right, do that next. I know, Senator Williams just stepped out, but one of the things that we need to do sooner rather than later is choose a clerk. So I'm wondering if anybody is up for it, is willing or would like to make a nomination of someone.
I've never done all projects.
Oh my gosh.
I have confidence in this.
That's fabulous. Or, I think we do need I was gonna say, I think we do need a motion for that. Yes, go ahead.
I moved, let's stop back.
I don't think we need a second. Do we need a second? I don't think we do. Okay, all right, so without a clerk, otherwise we call a roll. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay, great, thank you so much, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then, just wanted to, give you a heads up that we got a list of appointees that we need to, report on, for confirmation. And so, instead of taking some time right now, I'd love to just like pass this around, because there's no, there's no towns listed on here, so if you happen to know someone, you can grab them. If we do have the letters for each of them, right, and they might be on that letter, the locations.
Back and front?
That's the wall, that's the wall.
Oh, that's for all.
That's for all.
Okay. It's
Thank
like,
you, yeah.
it's a lot, yeah.
Well, like the new
So-
Wales review board is one of the.
Just,
I mean, health and welfare has a ton of them, but hopefully.
yeah, oh yeah, so it does say where they live, so maybe we can also, pass some of those around.
Well, I'll take me copies.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and otherwise, well, we do have a little bit of time now, but since Snre Williams is not here, I think we'll just be done for the day, because I would love to at some point talk about what values we have and what values we're bringing to the table, but we'll do that next time. All right, thank you so much.